Star Citizen has various problems with its cargo gameplay and economy. It's alpha after all, but some of these really could do with being addressed. Some of them are being looked at in Alpha 3.15 and Alpha 3.16 for the rest of 2021. Other improvements are a bit further out, but today I'm going to be talking about the future of cargo and selling gameplay, as well as plans for the economy in the near to mid-term, and what it's going to be when it's all slotted together. Hopefully, seeing a good portion of this done by the end of next year is my hope. The current issues with cargo gameplay are that it's hard to purchase and sell your cargo, due to the amount of stock being sold and bought by an individual sort of outpost or area that you're purchasing from. If you have a big ship full of cargo, you might be waiting for a long time in dock to be able to sell it, only being able to sell a small amount every few minutes. And then there's the amount you can make as well, so profit is pretty slim pickings for cargo hauling compared to the days of Jumptown. Cargo hauling isn't really worth the time invested because of low returns. Another major drawback to cargo hauling is the risk. Not from players or NPCs, though there is a smaller amount of risk that comes from that. You can have someone attempt to pirate you can have NPCs that take you out, and you can ram into things. So general environment is still, I suppose, a small issue, but mainly server crashes are what cause a lot of cargo haulers to lose their money. 30Ks. So you have 1 million Alpha UEC in cargo, and you're flying to a station to sell. 30K, it's crashed, all that cargo's lost. That's a huge risk, because, well, there's no comeback from that, it's just gone, and that could strike at any time. Also, what you can actually sell and where is very limited too. You want to sell your ship and weapons or a load of rifles that you've liberated from pirates? Well, there's nowhere to do that yet. You can only sell commodities in boxes and individual boxes. They're two sort of separate things at the moment. You go to a console at a station or point of interest, you can buy cargo that you want, bam, 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 bam. It puts it in the back of your ship, though you can't individually then move the containers by hand, although you can find boxes in missions and points of interest and that sort of stuff, put them in the back of your ship and also sell them from your cargo grid. And really, this has been the problem over the last few patches with cargo. Cargo gameplay is in a bit of limbo, where there's a lot of plans for updates coming in the near future, but they haven't put them in yet. Cargo gameplay is 2D and flat at the moment, but that's changing. So there is the new inventory system. In Alpha 3.15, you are able to interact with items and transfer them from your character to your ship to a landing zone. This is going to make it very important to bring the right gear with you and on your ship so that you can change into it. You don't have a magic bag of holding on your character anymore. You have to go, right, I need to go pick up my stuff that's here, put it on my ship, and then I can change into it when I need it. They're then going to be further physicalizing inventory by having individual cupboards and sort of gun racks and that sort of stuff, all much more interactable and showing items that are there, though that's a bit further out than 3.15. In the future, we should have much more interactable cargo, so the ability to transfer your cargo between ships and between points of interest and hangars in a similar way. So the idea there being that you'll be able to grab your sort of cargo from some sort of interface and chuck it in a hangar or a cargo deck or an area that you have storage. Cargo decks have existed in the game for a while now, and eventually these will be one-stop shops for cargo-related ships, gear, missions, but also an area to potentially rent space for storing goods. At the moment, they have very little reason to be visited, cargo decks, and are an example of Cloud Imperium going, look, we'll release this as it's ready, but there's no tangible gameplay to it yet. So that sort of stuff is changing with their new release strategy. They want things like cargo decks or whatever, they only release them in the future is the idea, when they have more tangible gameplay associated with them. No point releasing them in isolation. Another thing that Cloud Imperium are working on are persistent hangars, which could be another place to store cargo potentially, but it's also going to be the place that you store your ships and lots of other stuff as well. In the future, there is a plan to have the cargo decks and landing zones have loading and unloading times, so you might want to land your Caterpillar and sell your goods or store them, but you'll pay fees and you might have to wait 5 to 10 minutes, and you might be able to pay expedite fees to have it done quicker, and it's going to change the price based on what station you're at and their facilities. One of the things that I hope this solves is issues with selling in quantities at certain areas. Shops not having enough inventory to buy what I would deem a small quantity of goods is not great. And it is something that I do feel that they could solve pretty easily, Cloud Imperium, by just setting limits differently. Just have it that if you go over the store's sort of stock limit, they pay you less for the materials in question. It drops sort of like a level of want and a level of need down to a low level. They can rent space as well. There's loads of space on the station. Have them have secondary and tertiary sort of warehouses, but don't give arbitrary hard limits that will then sort of degrade over a minute, and or you can sell more, and then a few minutes later you could sell more. To be honest, I would actually like to see something like this in game now. Currently, Cloud Imperium can mod shops to take more stock or pay more with cargo alerts at certain times. They use this in game sometimes, the cargo alerts, to basically have a, oh, this is worth a lot of money as a good. Something that we should see in the future as well is a more physicalized interactive cargo. So cargo is currently a massive quantities that you can buy and sell, but you can't really move. Yes, you can find and get boxes, just single boxes to move around as well, but these are more like mission boxes or items that you find sort of thing. And we need a unification of the system, so you would be able to move individual boxes that are commodities, manage them, steal them, sell them, open them up, put different things in them. We know we're going to be able to have boxes and crates and store different items in them, be they rifles or pistols or whatever. Literally open the crate up, pew pew pew, shoot those weapons if you wanted, put them back in the crate, and then sell them. They'll be detected by the cargo grid of your ship, so you can sell them to shops. And that's a good segue. We will be getting the ability to sell more items, so more than just commodity boxes and other boxes that we find. This is going to expand what types of cargo there are and the usefulness of that cargo, because if you can deliver a load of weapons to your org, or from one area to another, well, that might change some stuff in the dynamic universe simulation. Or it might mean that Grimhex has got a big load of guns that have just come in that players will be able to buy. And it's not just weapons and gear, it's food, medical supplies, anything that we might want to buy or sell, or in FPS gear, ship items. As a side note, looting and new lootable boxes are in Alpha 3.15, so we are pretty close to being able to do something more tangible with looting and piracy. Taking the whole cargo of a ship or moving smuggled goods between ships in space would be so useful, and that looks very close to me. Work on some of these selling features is pegged for completion on the roadmap's progress tracker for early December 2021, meaning we could see it later this year or early next, but there's no hard date for that integration into the game. Piracy probably will need you to be able to disable a ship more readily, and we probably need physicalized components for that, admittedly. That said, Cloud Imperium are working on physical components now as well, so this allows for individual components to be targeted, destroyed, and all connected up to the ship systems, and they all sort of communicate with each other. Thus, if your power plant or all your power plants are destroyed, that disables your ship, typically, rather than exploding it. It doesn't have artificial health pools for the ship anymore. That just means it's dead. You go, well, my engines are disabled. That means I can't move. There is a database wipe in Alpha 3.15. This is going to reset everything this time, except for items and ships and stuff that you've bought with real money on your RSI account. This might increase the amount of people that are willing to get into cargo gameplay as players scramble to earn Alpha UC again, and Alpha UC isn't hugely inflationary as a currency. Well, it will be and is, but people don't have a huge amount of it already, so it's setting the dial back 18 months, because we haven't had a wipe in 18 months. Part of this, and something else that's being phased in 3.15, is more iCache, Super Pcache, Entity Graph stuff. So this could see shops being a bit more snappy, less 30Ks, better crash recovery, that sort of stuff. It could put the game into a less buggy state, and if so, that would be great for cargo. The risk of losing stuff beyond your control is just really infuriating. That said, eventually, whatever, servers will be able to fully save states, and you might not even know that a server's crashed because it was able to migrate to a new one without disconnecting you. That's the sort of future plans, so that you don't have to worry about 30K so much. We might not be there yet, but we will be one day. The whole economy and cargo needs more appropriate risk versus reward. Players very rarely use escorts. They don't buy people to come and protect them. Some do, or some do it like as an org operation. They'll move around. But a lot of players just won't use escorts, and that's because they see cargo gameplay is quite solo, and there's not the price margins to pay the extra people anyway. You are largely safe from NPCs and players as well when you're doing cargo running, not in all situations, and sometimes you do encounter someone that is just going to ruin your day, but it's sort of like, space is big, and Star Citizen servers only have 50 players in them, so you can avoid most players most of the time. One of the short-term ways that's planned to address low profit margins and players not really interacting much when they're doing cargo gameplay is going to be with Jumpdown version 2. So this is going to have outposts and stations selling and buying particular commodities for a very, very, very high price. So it's going to be very worth players getting involved to do this, and it's going to be for a limited time, and it might be for a unique sort of like commodity, so you can't hoard it and then sell it later or anything like that. It might have a shelf life as well, so it will well, yeah, technically you could hoard all of this stuff, but it will deteriorate over 3 hours. That gets a lot of players that want to do cargo into one area, but it also gets a lot of players wanting to use escorts, wanting to do stuff in groups, wanting to go and ruin other people's days, going there and fighting them. There could be counter missions here, there could be legitimate in-game enforced piracy and lore gameplay and a lot of stuff going on here. Funneling players all into one area because there is lucrative rewards there, there is risk, and everyone is aware of that risk and reward based on that. And during that time, shops will be modded, it seems, to be able to accept cargo sales sort of freely. So you don't have to worry about them just being overly full of stock where you can't sell anymore. They'll go, bam, this shop is modded. Yeah, you can sell all of this item to there during that time. Great. Those events could happen a few times a day, even for a few hours at a time. We're not really sure on the frequency yet, but obviously in the future, when we have the dynamic universe simulation, it will be sort of like based on a trigger of some kind when those will start. Talking about cargo decks earlier, actually, we need more cargo missions. So box missions, freight missions, cargo services, moving ships around for other players, especially now with the local inventory system changing. So players are going to spawn in 3.15 and have all of their goods delivered at their home, and then they'll need to move it around the verse themselves, but being able to buy services that move stuff around for you, that'll be useful. We need robust contracts allowing players to move goods and ships for each other. I want to see resupply missions where, yeah, Xeno threat, bam, you've got a javelin that's in dock that needs gearing up. You need to help refuel it, or at least some people do. So some people might be just traveling with that javelin as it goes to an event and that goes blows stuff up. And other people might just go, oh, there's a cool little trade mission here to go resupply javelin. There'll be loads of missions like this and opportunities like this which will affect each other's gameplay, but maybe not in a direct way. I think some other things we might see in the short term are volatile cargo missions for medical goods. Missions where we can just drive cargo from A to B or put down some money to move cargo, but we don't actually technically own the cargo or own the cargo ship, stuff like that would be pretty cool as well, something that we might see at cargo decks. Selling cargo between players is something that we know that Cloud Imperium have talked about to some degree. So trade is something that they will be expanding out from the finance app, I believe. That deals with, at the moment, Alpha VC and merits and being able to send them to players. But in the future, you're going to have a UI and you're going to be able to trade other items, cargo items, ships, all that sort of jazz. This will all tie into the dynamic economy and universe simulation. And this is sort of the crux of everything coming together. All put it together. Commodities will be consumed. NPCs need to eat. Factory nodes need materials to make goods. Those goods are then sold. Goods move between areas. This is the lifeblood of the game's economy, or at least it will be. Ships and items have been made with raw materials, and they are affected hugely by the price of those raw materials. And they can then be sold at shops, but those shops can run out of stock. There'll be an ebb and flow of trade lanes coming into existence and going out of existence, and these trade lanes are more likely to be attacked by pirates in the area, which are then more likely in turn to be defended by security. It's worth mentioning that NPCs are active economy participants too, buying, selling, taking missions, mining, at least in a simulated way. The economy is player influenced, but is certainly not in complete control of the players. This could be an awesome thing, or something that will probably need more work once it comes in, because you need to test this sort of stuff loads, and you need to get the economy tweaked in a way that players aren't just doing one part of the economy, because that's the meta. And the idea is to have prices, missions, and the world constantly changing so that the meta today is not necessarily the meta for tomorrow. At some point as well, we're going to get a large universe, more locations to trade with, more points of interest, and we know that they're working on the Pyro and Nyx systems. I'm hoping to see those next year. Something else I really want to see in-game is money sinks. Maybe fuel is very expensive, or repairing your ship and ammo is, or water and food are, but we need something that helps deflate the amount of money in-game. Otherwise, you just have this huge inflation nightmare, and everyone will have ever more amassing amounts of money, and it's worth saving your money because it's worth a lot more tomorrow than if you try and invest it or do something with it, if you see what I mean. I know it's not a proper economy yet, and that's one of the reasons that we have sort of like this weird inflation. So some of this is coming this year in Alpha 3.15, Alpha 3.16, but some of it's in 2022 and beyond. I really hope that cargo gameplay is in a more playable state for 3.15. I know a lot of people are going to be hoping for the same thing. Cloud Imperium certainly has the tools and the ability to do this now, but it's to do with priorities, I suppose. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens in 3.15 and 3.16 this year. Boom! That's it for today, and some of the future of cargo selling in the economy. But what do you think? Are you hoping that Cloud Imperium sort out some of the cargo problems, like basically being able to sell cargo at outposts more readily? Do you think that's something that they might do for 3.15? Do you think that there's going to be big problems until much later in development for cargo? Do you think 30Ks are still going to be hugely prohibitive, or do you think that maybe we're going to be in a bit more of a stable state? I'm sure I've missed a load of mechanics which tie into the economy that you might want to talk about, and if so, tell me. But whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Some people say I shill for NordVPN, but listen to some of these comments that I just made up. I've never fed the love of a woman before, but then I got NordVPN, and that didn't matter.
Doctor said I'd never walk again, but then I got NordVPN. Now I've been running marathons. Also, I got robot legs around the same time. They might have helped somewhat too. I was a tone-deaf pirate, but after getting NordVPN, I'm able to play the saxophone. Go on, Zin, try and animate all of this.
Click the links below to get NordVPN. It might lead you to a more fulfilling life, but more likely, it will just help protect you from the terrors of the internet. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For September, it's for another Mercury Star Runner. I love that ship. It's a great way to try a huge portion of Star Citizen's gameplay. If you want a chance of winning that, just comment on any of my videos made during the month. If you'd like to further support the channel, be sure to check out that join button underneath my videos. There's also links to my Patreon, which also helps loads as well, direct donations, and just commenting, subscribing, liking, all that sort of jazz goes a huge way to helping the channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You take care, and I hope to see you in the verse.